Hey everyone, welcome back to Let's Talk. My name is John, and today here on the channel, we're going to be talking about La Bamba and its Criterion Blu-ray. So La Bamba was written and directed by Ritchie Valens, and it tells the story of Ritchie Valens, or more commonly known by his stage name, Ritchie Valens. And Ritchie Valens is played in this movie by Lou Diamond Phillips. It also features Ezzy Morales, Elizabeth Pena, Rosanna DeSato, and Joe Pantalonia, or Joey Pants as we like to call him here. And this movie is just telling the tale of Ritchie Valens and his short-lived career and his short-lived life. The man passed away at only 17 years of age. He already had a bunch of hits, including La Bamba, Donna, and Come On Let's Go. So he was already a huge overnight success story, and unfortunately his life was cut short along with the Big Bopper and Buddy Holly on February 2nd, 1959, the day the music died. But this movie isn't just focusing on his music career, it's really a family drama. It's actually a story about two brothers, Lou Diamond Phillips and Ezzy Morales' character of Richie and Bob. Two brothers who have big dreams. Obviously Richie has the bigger dreams. He wants to be a rock and roll star. That's all he really cares about. Meanwhile, Bob's had the harder life. You know, he's just getting out of prison at the beginning of this movie. He's got a girlfriend who's played amazingly by Elizabeth Pena in this movie. One of the more underappreciated actresses we've ever had. She's great in this and Jacob's Ladder, and unfortunately she did pass away at a pretty young age. And Ezzy Morales, man, he's having a comeback right now. I always thought this guy was a really good actor, and I mean, he's a really good-looking man. Same thing with Lou Diamond Phillips, but the two of them have just aged phenomenally. You can argue that they look better now than they did back in 1987. Ezzy Morales probably just had one of his biggest career performances in Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1. He plays Gabriel, that came out last year. He does a great job in that, but really, he is the heart of this movie. As great as Ritchie Valens is, you know, Ritchie Valens, he's a very bland character. You know, he's a young kid. He's very happy-go-lucky. He doesn't really have too much gray area in him. He's really just a good guy who cares about everybody else, and he wants to make it big, and he's just very plain toast. Whereas Ezzy Morales' Bob, he's got a lot more to play with his character. His character's an alcoholic. He suffers from an extreme amount of jealousy of his brother's success. His own life, he believes, has been tragic. Him and his brother, they don't share the same father, and that becomes a really big issue later in the movie. And you could just feel that this character didn't feel the love from not only his mother, but from his stepfather. And that's really affected him in his adult life. And Lou Diamond Phillips' character, you know, he has to really show the innocence of the world, really be the person living the American dream, while Ezzy Morales' character, he's like a real person. You know, he's out there, he's suffering, he's just trying to get through his day-to-day life. He's not a great person, but you understand why. You understand what happened to him. He treats Elizabeth Pena's character absolutely horrible. Even when he gets her pregnant, he refuses to take responsibility for it.
It's not my first or my last.
He makes a really shitty comment, and he just goes out drinking again, and he really is the character that has to learn the lesson in this movie, and he has to learn that even though his life might not be as successful as his brother Richie's, he still has a life to live, and he can still contribute a lot to this world. And I really think that his character is the standout character in this movie, because this movie, as much as I really enjoy this movie, and I think it's a very important movie, I know it's a very important movie to the Hispanic community, it does kind of feel like a TV movie in a way, and maybe that's just because when I was growing up, I watched this on VH1 Classic a lot. This and The Temptations were playing all the time back in the early to mid 2000s, and that's how I came to this movie. But just the way it's shot, and honestly even the way the script is written, the lines and the acting are not the greatest. The two leads do an amazing job. Elizabeth Pena does an amazing job, but all the characters really surrounding them, they feel very generic. The actress playing Donna, I just feel like she plays it very bland. She's not given the greatest lines to deliver. Even Lou Diamond Phillips as Richie really doesn't have some of the greatest lines to deliver. Luckily, Lou Diamond Phillips is such a good actor, he's able to overcome that. But still, like I said, his character isn't really the greatest character in this movie. Joey Pants, you know, Joey Pants is actually a little bit more reserved in this movie. You know, he always plays that over-the-top, always so loud character. Usually he plays like a little scummy, wormy type of character, but in this movie, he actually plays somebody with a heart. We kind of understand where he's coming from. He's a businessman, but you could tell he really does care about Richie, and the whole time you're watching the movie, you're just waiting for him to turn on him, but no, he really does care about him. Yeah, he's benefiting from his success as well, but you could tell he does care about him and his family. We see him at a party and everything when Richie gets back from Christmas, and that's a big thing with Ritchie. He really cares about his family, and we see this so much on screen. And but the music numbers throughout this movie, man, those are the scenes that really get you going. Watching Lou Diamond Phillips on stage, those scenes are all perfect. All the music in this movie is performed by Los Lobos. The Valenzuela family handpicked them. Richie and Bob's mother was on set, so you know, they really captured the truth about all of this and the story that they wanted to tell. All this stuff is pretty much based on fact. Obviously it's got that cinematic feel to it. That's the thing I think that holds it back. I feel like if this movie had come out now, this would be a little bit more darker, a little less upbeat, a little bit more focused. I think that the acting and the script would have been done a little bit better. I think it would have been shot a little bit better, but it's still overall a really, really good movie. I just don't think it's one of those great biopic movies. I don't even think it's one of those great musical biopic movies. I just think it's a very enjoyable movie, one that you can revisit every few years, but it's just not one of those special biopics. Never going to be anything that hits the levels of greatness. Even though this movie does feature a phenomenal performance done by Ezzy Morales in this movie, I just don't think that the movie itself is the greatest, but it's definitely one that you should check out if you haven't seen it. Maybe you want to check it out on this Criterion Blu-ray that we're going to talk about right now.
A true story. La Bamba.
So, a movie about brothers. This is actually a Christmas gift from my brother Frankie. He gave this to me for Christmas, and I really did appreciate that, mainly because, like I said, I don't love this movie, but I really, really enjoy this movie. The time flies by. It's an hour and 48 minutes long. You can't say anything about the pacing. This movie is paced great. You're never bored throughout the entire film, and it's pretty weird because this movie's scan was actually overseen by Sony. It was restored in 4K from the 35mm camera negative, so it's pretty weird that we didn't get a Criterion 4K Blu-ray for this. We just got it on standard Blu-ray. I don't anticipate them releasing this on 4K anytime soon. If they just did the new scan and Criterion has the ability to put movies out on 4K, Criterion was one of the last people to get on board with 4K. Their first 4K only came out just over 2 years ago. They were really happy with the Blu-rays they were putting out. They didn't think that the 4K format was going to add that much to their films, which I think they've been proven wrong by that at this point, because I think that they have released some of the best 4Ks I've ever seen, and I don't think they would be the same quality if they were released on Blu-ray, and this is a shining example of why. This is a really, really, really good Blu-ray, visually and audio-wise. But the visuals, because this was scanned in 4K, if you would have put the HDR over this or the Dolby Vision, it would have looked just that much better. The resolution increase would have really improved this so much, because every time I've seen this movie before, it never looked as good as this movie, but to get a brand new scan seen over by Sony, who does some of the best 4K scans out there, it is a little bit disappointing that we didn't get this in 4K Blu-ray. I really do think that that would have just enhanced this so much more. It just feels like almost a missed opportunity, because it is a great scan. All the colors now are more vivid and dynamic. The colors of the cars will just pop out at you a little bit more. The skin looks a lot more natural, but again, it would have just looked a lot more detailed, and you would have noticed a lot more stuff because of the ranging colors and the deeper blacks if we would have just got it in regular standard 4K Blu-ray with HDR over it. I really do think that this is the kind of movie that would have just looked absolutely gorgeous on 4K Blu-ray, and unfortunately we didn't get that, but we did get a really good Blu-ray. I don't want to sell the visuals short on this Blu-ray because it is still a really, really, really good Blu-ray, like you would expect from Criterion when it comes to the visuals. It's just, it almost feels like we just left stuff on the table that we didn't have to. And the packaging kind of illustrates that as well. It's a very standard Criterion Blu-ray release. I love the artwork on it. The colors are really awesome. I really did appreciate that. You come inside, and I really like that they made the paperwork look like a flyer. I think that's awesome. A little bit of attention to detail for the film fan out there and fans of the film. Thought that was really cool. You get a nice little essay inside. Just one disc, just one Blu-ray, so that's going to have all of your extras on there as well. Your only audio track on there is going to be a DTS HD 5.1, and it's a really good DTS HD 5.1. For a movie that's very music heavy, you hoped it would be good, and it was really good. Good amount of bass, not the most amount of bass. It's not the best 5.1 I've ever heard, but the music scenes, they all just sounded phenomenal, really making great use of all of your channels. And then the quieter, slowed down scenes when we just have characters talking and delivering dialogue, what? That comes in crisp and clear. You can set the volume on whatever you want. You don't have to worry about it. It adjusts perfectly when the music scenes start going, and it gets a lot louder. The audio track is able to adjust, so you don't have to sit there scrambling around for a remote. Nope, you can just leave it at what it is. It'll adjust for you. Don't have to worry about this. If you're watching this at 1 in the morning at your house like I was, and all of a sudden La Bamba starts playing, you don't have to scramble around because you're going to wake up your wife and she's going to be pissed off at you. Nope, you don't have to worry about that. It's a really, really good DTS HD 5.1 track. But again, you know what? Maybe an Atmos track would have worked really well for a film like this that features so much music, but I'm not really going to complain because it is a pretty good DTS HD 5.1. And now as far as the extras go, we get 2 audio commentary tracks, we get a new interview, we get an older interview as well, and then we get an from 1987 on location making of documentary. And it's not very long. It's like those making of documentaries that you've seen a million times that they would put out to market the film, to show you what the film is all about. I actually thought this is one of the better on location making of documentaries. Usually these feel like everyone's kind of phoning it in, really just hyping the movie up, and not really giving too much detail, only saying positive things. Now, everyone is saying positive things, but we also really get to hear what their inspiration for the character was. We also get to see Ritchie's mom on set talking to Ezzy Morales and how she said that he looks just like Bob looked in the 1950s. We get to see Lou Diamond Phillips performing the songs in front of the crowds with all the extras and how they're moving the cameras around. I really thought that this was a fantastic featurette. I know this is a previously released one. It's been around since 1987, so it might not be anything that people really care too much about, but I really think it's awesome. I'm really glad that they included that on here. You also get all the main actors' audition tapes, which is awesome. I love watching audition tapes and seeing what the character was, in the audition room to what it eventually ends up on screen. You can really see that Ezzy Morales had this down pat. Lou Diamond Phillips just looks like this innocent kid, which is perfect because that's exactly the way you want this character of Ritchie Valens portrayed on screen. That's exactly how you portray it. That's why I was saying, Lou Diamond Phillips, as good as he does in this movie, the character itself is just very bland and generic, whereas Ezzy Morales' character, that's the character. That's the one that you sink your teeth into. Ezzy Morales does a great job with that in this movie, but just see the audition tapes are fantastic. I absolutely love that. So they didn't give us too many extras, not really too many new extras, which I know a lot of people might be disappointed with. And overall, I am very happy with La Bamba's release. The only thing is, it definitely does feel like a half-measure release from Criterion, and not like one of their standout releases. You could just tell that that's how they felt as well, because it came in the standard packaging. It's a 1-disc set. They scanned it in 4K, but they didn't give us the 4K Blu-ray release. It feels like that they made the decision to put this out on Blu-ray because they didn't see it as being financially viable on 4K Blu-ray, which is disappointing because I do think that this could have been a gorgeous 4K Blu-ray. And to be honest with you, if this eventually ever does come to 4K Blu-ray, I will probably upgrade it because I could just see the potential while I'm watching this to be a really, really, really good 4K Blu-ray. I also would have liked a little bit more extras, but I'm not going to complain too much about them because the extras that are included in here are just fantastic, and I always complain about extras. It's just that Criterion has the ability to give us so much more that this release just kind of feels like a secondhand release, and it really hurts me to say that, but it's still a really, really, really good release. I'm really happy with this. I'm really glad to include this in my collection. It's definitely one that I will be revisiting, like I've already revisited it a bunch of times before. It's an entertaining enough movie. Not the greatest movie ever released, not the greatest biopic ever released, but it's a good enough type of movie, one that you definitely should check out if you haven't seen it, and I would give this Criterion Blu-ray a pretty solid score of 7.5 out of 10. Not a bad release, but also not one of Criterion's greatest releases. But anyway, guys, that's going to do it here for me on another episode of Let's Talk. I hope you enjoyed this review, and if you did, don't forget to hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, turn notifications on, share the video, and maybe you want to take your support to the next level. We do have channel memberships. I want to thank my 3 producers right now, Nocturnal, John Doe Juggalo, and Jason Martin, and I want to thank my channel director, Frank Rodriguez. If you guys want to join the ranks with them, or just become a friend of the channel to help support us, and get all kinds of different perks, look for that in the description below. We would really appreciate that support, but just remember, it's no pressure at all. If you got no money to throw our way, we don't mind. We just appreciate you guys checking out this video, and we just want you to get out in those streets, tell your friends about us, and then after you're done doing all that, why don't you guys have a great day? We'll be seeing you around.